Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we don't have a way to compare time. I was just realizing that in between episodes I was going through our moment class, and yeah, it's not great. However, we can fix that relatively easily. So first things first, let's go ahead and say parcel.expectedDelivery plus equals. Essentially, we want to do int parcel speed plus 1. However, of course, this is a moment. We want to do expected delivery dot day plus this here. However, this is going to be backwards from what we want. So we want to take the inverse of this, because if we go into our parcel here, you can see that bulk would return 1 there, economy 2, standard 3, and priority 4. So you'd have 4 days to deliver a priority mail. Now, I want this to actually be 1 day to deliver priority, something like 3 days for standard, and then it just keeps going up. So like 9 days, and then like 30 days. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But let's go ahead and head back into the Parcel Manager, which is here. And instead of doing this, I think we'll just... Do we want to do a switch statement? I kind of don't. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to say something along the lines of 3f... Wait, is this an int or a floating point number? That's an int. So 3 times this. However, I want to do something along the lines of 3 times 4 minus that. So then that would return for 4 minus for the parcel would then be 4 minus 4 would be 0. So then we should probably have like 1 plus that. 1 plus 3 times 0 for priority mail. So you have 1 day to get priority mail there. And then that would be... So that would be 0. So then this would be 4 minus 3, which would be 1. So you have 1 plus 3. So you have 4 days to deliver standard mail. And then for economy, that would be 2. So 4 minus 2 is 2. And then you have 1 plus 3 times 2 days to deliver it. So you have 7 days to deliver economy mail. This seems good so far. And then up here, you would have 0 plus 1 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then 1 plus 3 times 3. You'd have 10 days to deliver bulk mail. I actually like that a lot. 1 day, 4 days, 7 days, 10 days. That works really well, I think. So we need a way to actually compare that, right? And determine how many days apart this is. Which is going to be a little bit awkward. Or do we? Or do we? And we need to determine how it falls off after that, right? So like 10% per day? Something along those lines? So if... Let's see, the days tick over from 30 or 31 or 28 if it's February to 1. So I think it will be easiest if we go into moment and have a function in here. Public int get separation of days. And this will be something along the lines of, let's see, we would need moment A and we would need moment B. Okay. And then int separation equals 0. Return separation, just so that it actually compiles. And then we would say something along the lines of, if A is not equal to B, but can we even compare these? Like, realistically. We've got minutes and hours, but we don't actually care about those. This is working only in days. This is working only in days and will ignore minutes and hours. Okay. There we go. So, our separation equals 0, and then we need to determine what our separation of days actually is here. However, we have this function, so let's go ahead and say time to deliver equals get separation, or rather equals parcel.expectedDelivery.get separation of days. And then we would pass in parcel.expectedDelivery, and B would then be... Well, actually... How do I actually want to do this? Because I was thinking I could return a signed value, and then it would be like, this day is X number of days ahead or behind of this day. But realistically, it would work a lot better if it was unsigned and took the absolute value so that it didn't matter which way we put it in. But if we did that, then we wouldn't actually know with this function whether it was before or after the expected delivery. So maybe we should rethink how we're doing this particular function. Instead of get separation of days, it would be more along the lines of, like, check deadline. Returns 0 if it's before the deadline. If it's after the deadline, returns, say, the number of days that have passed. Get distance from deadline or something. This returns 0, or I'll just returns 0 if it is before or on the day of the deadline. Otherwise, it will return the number of days that have passed since the deadline. Okay, so instead of A and B, we'll just do moment deadline and moment current time. Like that. Okay, so rather than returning the separation, well, we can still have it be separation. And then we need to determine if we're before or after the deadline. And we could do that, I suppose, by running current time forward, theoretically. Or we could check the months. So, like, okay, if this is going to be a little bit in depth. If current time dot year is less than deadline dot year, we're before it in years. We're definitely before it. We just return 0. And I'm going to get rid of the separation for right now. And we're going to use get distance in deadline here. So parcel.expectedDelivery and then manager.business.timemanager.currenttime. Okay. So that gives us our time to deliver. And if that time to deliver is 0, then we get our full payment. If that time to deliver is 1, then we would get our minimum payment. Now we're looking at it being like potentially 10 if you're 10 days late. I want this to be like divided by, say, 0.1 or multiplied by 0.1. Just because if I want it to drop by, say, 10% of the amount that it's going to drop per day, then that means that if it's 10 days late, you get the minimum payment. Which would theoretically be tweakable. We could put that in the balance, technically. But for right now, I think 10 days is probably fine. So get distance from deadline. We're before it in years, so we're definitely before it. Otherwise, else if current time dot month is less than deadline dot month. Again, we're before it in months. So we're definitely before the deadline. Return 0. Okay. Else, if the month and the year are equivalent, if current time dot year equals deadline dot year, and current time dot month equals deadline dot month, if we're in the same month, let's look closer. Okay. So if we're here, we need to determine if the current day is before, equal, or after. So if current time dot day is before deadline dot day, return 0. Else if current time dot day is greater than deadline dot day, then we need to return the difference between current time dot day minus deadline dot day. So current time dot day minus deadline dot day. So for example, if it's the 20th and you're expected to do it on the 10th, 20 minus 10, it returns 10. Excellent. Else, we know that they're equivalent, so we can just return 0. However, this doesn't take into account when we are ahead substantially. So if the current time dot day is ahead, but we're within the same month, then that's fine. However, we need to determine the number of days if we're months ahead or years ahead. That could be a problem. Well, if we're years ahead, it's never going to be more important. Like, it's never going to get further than 10, right? But I still want this to be, like, authoritative in how much time it gives. I don't want to cut a corner there. So we need to determine else if current time dot year is greater than deadline dot year. Theoretically, this could happen very easily. What if you wanted something to be returned, or what if you wanted something to be delivered on December 31st, and it's now January 1st, and you're 1 day late? Well, that's going to be awkward. We need to get the difference in numbers of years. So we'll do int years apart equals current time dot year minus deadline dot year. So we now know how many years apart we are. If we're only 1 year apart, then it's going to be awkward. I mean, it's going to be awkward any way we slice it, because we don't really have a good way to compare our moments. So it's going to be interesting. However, it is pretty much time to put a cut in here. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and next episode, we will continue working on getting distance from deadline. Subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.